we have Ben and Chris. They run GymPin. Guys, thanks for hopping on. Before we start diving into industry questions and your story, etc., can you guys maybe just give a little bit of background on yourselves, and maybe just also include what's your role with GymPin?
So my background is I've always just my sport has always been training. So that's how I got into interested in lifting weights and training. Not technically minded, always worked in unrelated industries. Chris and I became friends, and we started GymPin 2020, just before COVID. It all started when I was maxing an adductor, so the inner thigh machine, and wanted a way to add more weights. So, and I said to Chris, we need to make something to add more weights to machines, because it's just too easy, and I bet there's more guys out there that would benefit from it. So that's how we got started, and Chris will tell you his background and how he helped make that a reality, really.
So I have the engineering background, trained as a tool maker, and Ben came along and said, I need you to make me something that's this size, this long, this diameter, etc. And said, leave it with me. Made something out of the scrap bin that I had one weekend, and he tried it, and he said, rubbish. So we had another go and made it a slightly different way, and that was a little bit better. But then we realized, oh, well, if we did it like this, we can make it like this, and if we did it like that, we can make it better. And a couple of variations down the line, some changes. They used to be fully welded, so tube with a cap, pin through the other side, and the GymPin today is aluminium and steel. We've done a couple of different ways of making them. We used to not use glue. We used to put them in the oven at home, expand the aluminium. The pins were in a freezer. We used to shrink fit them, and that was a little bit overboard. They're now glued in. So they've changed since the start, and really it started with Ben asking me to make something. Yeah. Didn't know what it was going to be, but he explained to me what it was going to be. Made it one weekend, and one thing led to another.
But Chris's side of the business is the operational side. Chris, handles the supply chain and the assembly, and I handle the sales side of it. I handle the social media accounts, and usually it's a case of Chris will say to me, what do you think about bringing out this? Or I'll say, Chris, do you think we can make that? And we'll knock about a few ideas and hopefully come up with something that's we think we can bring to market. And that's how the business has gone.
And what do you do for a living?
GymPin.
Or what were you doing before then, though? Sorry.
I worked in financial services. So I worked for a company that used to lend money.
Okay. In like a sales role?
Yeah, business development, getting out, meeting customers, sales essentially.
And I've been an engineer since when I left college, did an engineering apprenticeship, and been a heavy goods driver in between all that, CNC stuff, manual stuff on the lathe, milling machine, etc. Fascinated by anything engineering, love making stuff.
Mm. What kind of stuff were you making?
So I like to make things out of steel. I'm not a joiner. Used to do autograss racing, so we'd be making chassis, wishbones, various different things. All the furniture in the unit is all custom made, just to fit exactly what we needed it for and exactly that gap. So we've anything steel, metal, aluminium, you name it, we'll have a go.
Car exhausts.
Yes, stainless steel, TIG welding, exhausts, all that sort of stuff. It's worth mentioning, quite a lot of the time we're driven by our customers. So they'll reach out and say, hey guys, have you thought of doing this? I think if you could do this, it would really help X, Y, and Z. And we often go with them on that. If they've got an idea, we'll go with them and run with it. There's some things we've come up with that never made it. Often when a customer comes out, it's because they're either missing something or need something to be made better. And it's one part of the business is coming up with new ideas. So we love it when folks reach out to us and say, can you help with this? And we like helping and we like solving problems.
that's always been the core, and what we're very proud of and what stands us apart is the whole essence of the business and how the business originated was because I had a problem in the gym. I needed to add more weight, and we came up with a solution for that problem. And then we thought, there must be other people. I mean, I'm only at the time I was only 200 pounds, so I'm not the biggest guy in the world. And I thought, if I'm not the biggest guy in the world and I'm lifting full stacks on machines, there's got to be other big guys and girls out there that have the same problem. So it was always that sort of solution-led approach. We didn't want to ever just be one of these businesses that brings out generic things. Generic. I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but generic items that
be copycat company. Yeah,
copycat or generic items that are very readily available elsewhere. We wanted something that was sort of solution-led and a solution to a genuine problem that people all over the world would have day to day in the gym, and that's what I think we've managed to achieve. We managed to stay away from doing the generic barbells, which everyone can buy just by going online, and I'm proud that we managed to sort of maintain that.
Got it. And you guys actually I'm gonna dive into the GymPin, but before we do that, how long have you guys been friends?
2017 we first met.
It was on a mutual friend's driveway talking about Hondas.
Yeah, Honda Civics.
And Integras. He had an Integra at the time. He
Yeah.
was rebuilding.
Got it.
So it was a common interest in cars.
Modifying cars, yeah, when we were teenagers. Well, no, can't be teenagers. No, not teenagers. Yeah, 2017 then.
Yeah, seven or so years ago. And then you have the accent. So I think just before we get into more questions, can you explain? I know you're in the UK. Where specifically in the UK are you guys?
We're South Manchester, but I think it's often associated. Well, it's Manchester, Mancunian accent. I think we can't notice it. The surrounding areas. What have you got? East, west, north, south.
Yeah.
We're definitely not a London accent. Not a Scottish accent. There's quite a few different accents, I guess.
I think that it's classed as the Northwest. I think the Northwest has quite a neutral English accent, but a lot of people, whenever I've been abroad, they always point out to me that we say bus as opposed to, whereas people from London would say bus. I'm getting on the bus. Whereas we would say bus.
Got it.
So there's a few, but I think we have quite a neutral.
How far
English
away
accent.
from London are you?
4 hours.
Yeah,
4 hours.
Train 2.5 hours, car 4 hours.
Okay.
But that's what you guys would do that. You guys would do that for a day out, wouldn't you?
To get to say that again.
You guys would. I made a bit of a joke, but you guys would travel a lot further than we would for a day out to see family or friends, wouldn't you? I wouldn't go to London for the day, for example.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like on the border. Like, would you make a day trip? Probably not.
Right.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to clear that up for anyone listening, or like, oh, these guys aren't typical. Don't have the typical accent. All right. Back to the GymPin. You kind of gave the origin story. So would you say you are kind of like the creator of the first GymPin style product? Was there anything like this on the market when you were creating this product?
I think there were attempts on the market which were very few and far between, but we were the first to really do it on a global scale, on a commercially viable scale. I would argue we were and I think our product that we brought to market on it in a big way is much nicer than anything that was available at the time when we started. Since then, we have inspired a few other brands, and we may get onto that if how we feel about that. But to go back to your question, I think there was. I mean, I've been in gyms and people had just stuck a screwdriver in the machine to hang weights off. So there was always that intention. And I think there were people who would make one just from welding scrap metal together. But I think we were the first to bring something that was really commercially viable to the market.
And strong too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very limited. You are limited with the diameter of hole that the stack has, and something's going to bend at some point, and maybe we should do some head-to-heads.
Yeah,
actually,
we should do a comparison. But I think ours was the most commercially viable. It was definitely the strongest, and I also think it looks the best, or looked the best at the time. I think it still looks the best, but obviously I'm biased.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do want to get into it. There's a number of different brands who have similar products. Some are higher quality and some are definitely just like as cheap as possible. I haven't really done like a worldwide look, but I know there's a number in the US that do it. So I'd be curious, like, just what's your general take, or how does that make you feel when you see others out there?
I think when we began, it was GymPin. We were making GymPins, and it was nothing else, and it hurts. It thought the world was going to end. Oh no, there's someone else doing it. And since our catalogue has grown and more and more folks have entered the market, it's I think you have to expect it and getting part of being in business, I think.
Yeah, it's absolutely part of being in business. And when we first noticed competitors doing very similar things, it was really painful to see. However, what it actually did was just sort of elevate our brand, because people knew us as the original. And the funny thing is that, you know, similar to you don't go to use a search engine, you go to use Google. People don't say you need a weight extender pin, they say you need a gym pin. So we're becoming, through that, we have become the noun, or is it the noun?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even really know what to call it other than GymPin.
Yeah, and that was and there you go, Jake. So, but on that was a name that we came up with. It wasn't a big naming exercise. It was just something that, well, I'm using this pin in the gym, so should we call it a gym pin? And we went, yeah, let's do that. And that name stuck. And coincidentally, it translates well. It's catchy. It rhymes, and it's stuck. So when people have brought out, I mean, I saw one in Brazil the other day, and yeah, great. You know, people were tagging us in this post on Instagram, so people obviously know that it is a copy of GymPin. So we gained a few followers, and ultimately it means it keeps our product range sharp. It means we have to stay innovating. It means we have to stay improving to keep differentiating from the crowd, because the crowd will get inspired by what we're releasing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, it seems nearly impossible to just come up with 100%. If you're building out a catalog, it seems nearly impossible to just completely innovate on something that no one could have foreseen. You kind of have to build off what else is out there. Would you agree with that? I mean, it seems like that's kind of your take as you're building out your catalog as well. At least from me browsing your site, you know, I've seen people say, you know, that the Darko attachment is similar to something you have. So I think you've been attacked on both sides, not necessarily saying it's fair, but yeah, I was just curious on your general perspective on that.
Yeah, the Darko bar is really interesting, because we, at one stage, we had the T-bar attachment, which was an attachment to do T-bar rows, and then you attach our D-handle bar. And then Chris looked at them and thought, well, why don't we amalgamate it? And Chris came up with the prototype, and we started to release a bit on social media, and then eventually we released the product, and we got you know, a few comments saying we copied Darko. And there was no, you know, the funny thing is that Chris isn't really on social media because he's too busy in the workshop. So there's no way that Chris knew about Darko. When we looked into Darko's bar, we were like, oh my God, that's sick. That's absolutely beautiful. So we got invited. I don't know if you were in the Discord, but we got invited to the Home Gym Discord, and we said, his bar is absolutely stunning. Go and buy that, because that's absolutely spectacular. And you know, if it just so happened that not by design, but ours was at a much lower price point, so I didn't really see them as competing, really.
Right.
But that was a funny few days. I thought, yeah, learned something there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough right now because there's so much, like, there's such a high, there's a lot of interest right now in just like innovating products and making sure it's innovative. And the community's kind of rallied around that. I don't know, like, if it's all healthy. It most likely is not, and it'll probably level out over time. We'll see. But yeah, interesting. I'm sure you've had some interesting conversations, and you've seen some interesting comments. And
a very wealthy man once told me that you'll spend your life trying to come up with an original idea, And it's that always stuck with me, because always looking for what can you take from one market and bring to another market, or what can you take that's already on the market and innovate it and make it better. And especially in the sort of the fitness space, the home gym space, you need to do that delicately, so to not tarnish your brand, irritate the wrong people or whatever. So I think we're always looking for things to try to improve. We're always looking for ways to put our own spin on things without, in a way that will enhance the brand, so to speak. Is that fair to say?
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Can you describe the rest of your product line, and maybe just like talk about how you've evolved from just a single GymPin to 2 pages of products on your website today?
So the first product was the original GymPin, and that was, as we said, just for personal use initially, and then we put it on eBay and we started selling to France and Belgium, and we thought, wow, hang on, this is. And then we had people around the UK, and they'd give us feedback, and they said, we need a longer one to add more plates to the adductor machine. And then so we said, okay, so we had a 6-inch one. This is an older version, but we had a 6-inch one, and then we brought out an 8-inch one. And then someone said, can you bring out a 3-inch one? So yeah, we can bring out a 3-inch one. And then people mainly on the continent in Europe said, can we bring out a 1-inch diameter one? So we brought out a 1-inch diameter one. And then it's always been a sort of led by the customer.
Internal, external version.
We had people. So they obviously the GymPin ranges for the cable or the pin-loaded machines, cable machines. We had people saying, can you make us something to add more weight to plate-loaded machines? So we brought out the internal extenders. The D-handlebars came relatively quickly after that. They were something that people wanted to see, and again, we needed a 30-inch D-handlebar. We then had a 20-inch D-handlebar that people could have in their gym bag and take to the gym.
And then it was really the GymPins and the D-handlebars, and then it was like, right, okay, what things can we attach to our D-handlebar?
Yeah.
So we then brought out
the Angles 90s.
Well, that was Simon and.
Yeah, we're a UK distributor for the Angles 90s. They're based in Italy. They're two nice guys that we partnered with from Italy. We've got the tricep rope range, which are fantastic, and
grip balls.
They're good fun. And then the Kaizen adapters came about in November 22. November 22, we first reached out to Kyle. And it's constantly just been that process of having an idea, R&D, prototyping, tweaking. If it's no good, we move on. If it's good, we bring it to market.
With where we ship to, we've always had in mind how heavy it was going to be to ship.
Yeah. So
that was the reason why the D-handlebar was littered with so many holes, was to get the weight down under 2 kilos so it would ship, because that shot the price up. And then we didn't want to start building racks. We didn't want to start doing large equipment. The Kaizen adapters were the first thing that was really focused for power racks, lever arms. Then came the taco handles. We are looking at larger equipment now. Not far, I think.
Yeah.
We're working on a new jammer arm rack attachment, which will allow you to combine any lever arm with any rack, which will be able to be in free motion, but also fixed and converging, whilst being sat upright in the rack, and as well lay on the flat, doing flat work. So there's a few things that we don't think have hit the market like this before. So we're quite excited. We are prototyping that as we speak.
And that's a good point just to talk about, is when we started the business, it was all aimed that the goal was let's get the GymPin in every gym in the world. And that was the big plan. That was the mission statement. Let's set ourselves a big target of trying to achieve that. And we started to speak to some gym owners, and they said, no, we're not really interested, thank you. And then we thought, right, okay, let's have a product range for every gym bag in the world. Right, okay, well, there's more every user takes a gym bag to the gym. Great, let's go after those people, and let's make products that they can take to the gym. And then we started to realize that in the States you have something called the home gym market, because we don't really have that in the UK,
Got
because
it.
no one has garages big enough. I mean, look, our garages are one car. If you've got a one car garage, you're doing good in the UK. So we don't have the space. Whereas in the States, you've got an entire industry built around it, and that then opened our eyes, and collaborations with Kyle and speaking to friends that we've made in the space have opened our eyes to, wow, that is a cool market, and that's steered the company to an extent, or opened our eyes to what can we bring out to the home gym space. So yeah, it's been a learning curve, if nothing else. Yeah.
Cool. That was something I had on my list of questions to ask you. There's obviously a big difference between the UK and the US in terms of home gyms. Could you maybe go into a little bit more detail as to what the difference is? Is it like truly massive? And then also, do you ever think it's something that the UK will, or just Europe in general, will kind of catch up? Is it something that we'll see in 10, 20 years, or is it just going to be different?
I think there's less space in the UK. I think the closest thing we will get to it, and probably will not see again, was the time in lockdown, and everyone was buying gym equipment like crazy and changing their spare room into a gym. I think most people have changed them back now, in the UK at least, because they meant well, and they trained through lockdown, but gyms were shut. Gyms reopened, and I think they regained their membership, and it wasn't the same as the home gym space in the US. So I think that's obviously there to stay.
I do. People invested quite a lot in home gym equipment during COVID, like Chris says, and I mean, I know, for example, I was training in the garden, and I have still kept that equipment just in case there is another lockdown ever, because it was very difficult to get hold of. I think some people have gone back to the gym. I think some people have decided to keep training at home. However, it's not got the same popularity over as the States, surely. Europe, I think, is probably pretty similar. I think most people just go to commercial gyms, so the home gym market in the States is definitely the biggest in the world, as far as I'm aware.
I mean, I'm curious to hear why specifically you think that, other than maybe the space. I mean, I think like the biggest reason most people are creating home gyms in America is because they just live really busy lives, and a home gym saves a lot of time. It's not necessarily that they don't want to go to a gym. It's because the home gym it just saves them the time. So, there's plenty of gyms around me. So I'd be curious to hear, is it just because like there's not enough room in the home, or is it just a different culture?
One thing that we have seen certainly over the past few years is that gyms in the UK are becoming much better equipped. So gym owners are having to compete by having the best equipment, and it's much more common to find, prime equipment, Cybex, Nautilus, hammer strength equipment in local gyms, because especially in the independent gyms and even the chain gyms have become a lot better in the UK, and especially the independent gym, like the independent gym that I go to, I dread to think how much money he spent on equipment. It must, it's hundreds of thousands of pounds on hand-picked pieces of equipment that he's imported from the States and other places around the world. And for me, if I was going to, I would struggle to. I don't know. You could certainly have as good a workout, but the equipment in a lot of local gyms around the UK is pretty good, from what I understand or for what I can see. Is that the same in the States? Is the sort of quality of the average gym very good, or are some good and some not so good?
Yeah, I think the quality's pretty good.
Right. Okay. What's that gym in the States where they have an alarm that goes off?
Planet Fitness.
Is that real?
Yeah, I mean, I know it used to be real, at least, but I believe they still have the lunk alarm. I've never been to a Planet Fitness, but the key selling points for Planet Fitness is, number one, it's really cheap. It's like they just raised their prices to $15 a month. So most people have the gym and they actually, it's such a low cost that it's like, why not just keep it year round? And it's supposed to be less intimidating. So like if you're throwing down weights, the lunk alarm will happen. So throwing weights, I'm not sure exactly what else, but yeah, it's true. And I think it's probably the largest gym in the world, like the most amount of gyms. So, I mean, it does very well. It's a very successful chain. But okay, so we don't really know why exactly, other than like bigger garages and bigger basements, maybe.
Yeah.
What about like?
Garages? Go on.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna ask if you guys ship worldwide, and I'd be curious to hear like if you have any insights into like the rest of the world outside of Europe and America.
I think Germany has a good home gym scene.
Okay.
And some places in Germany and France have good home gym scenes. And actually thinking about it, the Middle East, places like, I'm just thinking about some of our customers who tag me. Qatar, I think we've got one in, we've got certainly a guy in Qatar and Kuwait. And it seems to be those areas where, the space is a plenty really. Whereas in the UK, typically we've got the properties are generally just smaller. I don't have a garage attached to my property. You don't, do you? Chris doesn't. So there's two people who can't have home gyms, and the norm just tends to be less garage space around. But I think Germany's got quite a good home gym scene, and I've seen a lot of pages on Instagram about German garage. I think it comes down to space. Just simply space.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys have bigger cars in the States as well. Your cars are wider, so when you have a double garage, your double garage may be wider than a UK double garage, and I think it just comes down to space.
And I imagine the rate of home building in the US is much higher right now than what's going on in the UK, just because it's a younger country. There's constantly building. Like I would imagine like half of the homes in the US have been built in the last 10, 20 years. I maybe not, but like it's a really fast rate, and it's more conducive to like the dual family, dual car. Yeah. So I imagine that's probably part of it too. So yeah. Let's see, what else did I have? So Kaizen adapters, would you say that's been a worthwhile project?
In short, yes. If you can think of all the different types of brand or maker of gym equipment, some of them may even have 2 or 3 different styles of rack. And what we found out quite quickly is for this the style that we have on the Kaizen adapters, at least, to get full functionality, you have to be very specific to what the customer already has the equipment. So, and we don't want to start asking them to drill holes in their arms and stuff like that. So you're really governed by what they've already got, and the hole spacing is the major one that makes them different. It's not as simple as saying, I've got a 3x3 rack, have you got adapters for it? It's unfortunately not that simple for the Kaizen adapters anyway that we've brought out. We are working on something that is universal though. So depending on what people already have, we sort of got a growing catalogue of options for people. You can imagine how many different versions there could be if we had an option for every type of gem around.
It's also been really, really nice to get to know Kyle and get to have someone else's insights into the industry, who is established in the industry and has a growing brand. Being across the pond, he has opinions on things that we may not have noticed or understood. He's brought a lot of value to the partnership, and we really enjoy catching up with him when we do. It's been certainly a new dynamic for the business, which has been
cool. Good to hear. What about like, you're building a specific piece to add value to jammer arms somebody else made? Has anybody like reached out to you to collaborate, or also on the other hand, has anybody gotten upset that you're building off of what they've already created?
Nobody's got upset, to my knowledge. I think people understand that, the home gym scene, everyone wants to make it their own and bespoke, and manufacturers understand that, I think, so they expect it to an extent. What was the first question, sorry?
Has anybody tried to collaborate on them? Like, oh, hey, you're making these for our Jamer arms. Can we sell them too? Anything like that?
There's a few early stage conversations happening, but we shouldn't say too much more at this stage.
Okay.
One thing
that's
is we
still
need
a couple years later. If it's, it's still been like almost 2 years. So really not much, but maybe in the future, sounds like.
Yeah, we've the States is a big market for us, and I think we do have US manufacturing lined up. And like I said, we're having early conversations around that. We were always quite proud to maintain the made in the UK status, or USP. I think especially stateside, people are quite happy to have things made in the States. So those will be our two manufacturing hubs going forward, should we say, once we get it all agreed and working properly.
Got it. Is there, like, in the US, there's a few companies that kind of like you guys, where you started with a single product and you're younger and you're kind of like building out your catalog. Is there anybody in the UK or Europe kind of doing something similar? I've only heard of a few other like larger companies in Europe, but is there anybody like doing more niche stuff like you are as well?
I can name several that have GymPins and D-handlebars available.
Okay.
Aside from those products, it's interesting to see what they build off, what else they build, what else they include. So clearly you're not going to sell GymPins and similar products to us without being very interested in training. So it's interesting to see what else they can bring to market. And there's for example, there's a brand in Germany that manufacture GymPins from 3D printed stuff.
Got it.
And I thought that was really cool because it's really lightweight, it'd still be strong, and it's modern and cool. Yeah, and it's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really cool. But and again, it's a different price point, and once you get over the fact that they may have been inspired by GymPin, I thought it was pretty cool, to be fair.
Got it. What about shipping to the US? It seems like a nearly impossible task to ship like a single item at an affordable rate that people would buy. What's it like for you to do that, and how do you manage that? Because it seems like you've mentioned a few times the US is a very important market.
We realize shipping lumps of metal across the pond has its disadvantages, which is why we're trying to get fully set up with US manufacturing across our lines. We've purchased shipping rates from a couple of different places since we've begun, and we feel like we've got reasonable rates. It's a lot cheaper for us to send across to the US than it is for US to send back to ourselves.
And we don't know why.
Don't know really why.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's good. We just know that it's good for us.
So for some reason, we find ourselves being this little island is really advantageous in terms of international shipping. So we can ship. If someone were to buy a GymPin on the website, people have commented in the past that it arrives from the UK to California, say, quicker than sometimes an item from California arrives to California. So the FedEx shipping especially is very, very quick, and sometimes it arrives in 3 working days.
Well, yeah, if we ship it today, it can be on a flight overnight and it'd be there the next day to the hub, shipped out by ground, and it can be there within 2 days.
Yeah, we've had a lot of comments from people who order. It's dispatched they'll order at the weekend. It's dispatched on a Monday and it arrives on Wednesday.
That's crazy.
And we thought, wow, that is crazy. And then, to do that, it's thousands of miles and it's however many dollars is actually, we thought, quite good value for money, actually.
We very, very rarely don't ship express. We've tried snail mail in the past, and we've generally thought it's far better to get the thing there quickly, pay a little bit more. And a lot of places don't actually. So if we're shipping to Australia or Hong Kong, they don't really typically offer, the place that we purchase them anyway, they don't really offer economy services. It's express or nothing. So some countries it is more expensive, but to the US it's generally not too bad. But again, it depends on how much mass you're shipping, and all that stuff tends to be heavy, unfortunately.
Right. And not too expensive typically, especially if you're just buying a single item.
Well, I think if it lands in 2 days, 2 to 3 days, it's worth the money.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, experience is important.
We've had to consider when we've looked at alternatives for guys or girls purchasing in the States, we have to consider what it takes to get there, the total shipped price. We're absolutely not the cheapest, but we're also not the most. We're not the most.
Yeah, everything on the site seems pretty. Doesn't seem overpriced from my end. All right, well, here's an interesting question. Where would your business be today without social media?
Well, it began on social media, didn't it? Instagram.
It began on social media. The first social media, that was the first thing. That was how it all got started. The initial social media was the Instagram handle was weight_stack_extender_pin. And it was just me showing Chris's welds that he'd done and saying how nice the welds were. And then we'd make a couple of sales. And then I thought we need to change this name. It's a pin that you use in the gym. Let's call it GymPin. And that became the Instagram. I don't know how a lot of businesses operate without social media, quite frankly. And you sometimes speak to people who say, "Oh, I don't advertise," and I think, wow, that's crazy that people just get by on word of mouth. I mean, we wouldn't be international without social media. It's allowed us to go international very, very quick, immediately from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And because, as I said previously, we were making sales to Belgium and France quite quickly. We thought, right, needs to be a global business from day one, and social media has allowed us to do that. So, in answer to your question, I don't think we'd be anywhere without social media, really.
Gotcha. Where do you see your company going, or I guess I should say, where would you love to see your company in 5 years?
Question. We're taking it year by year. We don't really.
What about where would you like to see it in 2 years? If 5 years is too much.
More established in the United States.
More established in the States. More products released.
More collaborations across more countries. Within a couple of taps from your phone, you're in touch with anyone, anywhere. It's pretty awesome. And a lot of the times, 9 times out of 10, people that we work with are not on our doorstep. We never meet them in person because they're halfway across the world. And it's done through phones, emails, WhatsApp, and a lot of the equipment that we prototype stuff on is that we've never even touched this equipment, so we rely heavily on the person we're collaborating with. Whether it's to people reach out and say, "Oh, I've got this rack," you may have never heard of it before, but if they've got a set of vernier calipers and they can ascertain some dimensions for us, we'll make them a set of adapters for them. So we don't necessarily have to have them in the workshop to work with them.
And I think just continue growing what we have here. So one goal is to have distributors in every country in the world, and that would be a nice goal to tick off over the next 2 years. If we have anyone who is interested in distributing in their country, then please do get in touch. We've got Australian distributors and a distributor in Hong Kong now, and various countries around the world. But that side of the business is growing as well.
Cool. And is it just you two right now?
We're in charge. We have a small team.
Okay.
Okay. It's growing. Capabilities with the addition of the Kaizen catalog, we had to level up really to enable us to actually produce those. By doing so, it sort of opened the capacity to make other stuff. Yeah, we're got to be gym focused, but we're interested in new collaborations, and of course we like to work with the people that we work with, and they have another idea, then great. We're very led by customers.
Yeah.
And we're more than happy to say it was their idea. It's really important that they get the acknowledged.
Do you have any specific examples of how customers have given you ideas?
Kyle's probably the best one.
Kyle's a great example. We're working with a gentleman called Craig at the minute. Shout out to Craig. If you listen to this, he's come up with a very innovative cable design. And I will say no more because it's not quite finished yet. But that's going to be really cool.
Nice.
We get a lot of people reaching out and saying, "Hey, have you thought about this?" Sometimes it's not a good fit, and we'll just say, "Yeah, really cool idea, but I don't think it's within our capabilities at the moment, or we've got a lot on at the minute." And you know, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I always think it's better to collaborate rather than compete. So we're more than happy to have those conversations.
Cool. Good to hear. Well, guys, I
want you to tell us about where your social media page came from, where your brand, what the idea behind your brand came up. Where did that come about from, please?
Yeah. So first of all, it's been like 7.5 years. So it's kind of just steadily evolved. It was one of those things where I had a kid, and I was working a 9 to 5, and I was your typical gym goer, where I had to go to the gym. Like, it was best part of my day and didn't quite function right if I didn't get to go to the gym. So commute, maybe like 40-minute commute to the downtown area every day. And I usually went to the gym before. So I would leave for the gym, and I had a baby at home and didn't get to see her before leaving for work, and just kind of felt off. It didn't feel right. So slowly but surely started using a home gym and growing the home gym, and was like, man, this is really helping my life. And there wasn't much out there to begin with. I think there was like Garage Gym Life. I think he had a few thousand followers. I think Coop had,
John.
John. Shout out to John. I think Coop had, like a few thousand followers as well. And I was like, oh, there's a few things out there. But it seems like quite a bit of opportunity. It was just like one of those things, like, it's helped my life. I think it's going to help others. And I kind of could see how, like, when my friends had kids, active friends had kids, they would want to start a home gym too. And I was like, I think this trend might catch on. So I started a blog and then a social media account. They weren't very good at first. And, just worked on it every day for years. And I think by the time COVID happened, I think I had like 75,000 followers, and there still weren't many accounts or just like much advice for building a home gym. So COVID happened, and like all of the Garage Gym accounts blew up because there wasn't much content out there. There wasn't much advice. And I think that was kind of like, that helped me turn this into a full-time job, helped me ultimately grow it and create something like Home Gym Con, So it was more like just this was helping my life. Let me do something. I have some entrepreneurial like desires. Let's see where that goes. See where this goes. So yeah, that's kind of the general pitch. General story.
Home Gym Con is on the map, by the way. We need to get ourselves over there and come hang out.
Man, I think you guys would love it. It would be. Have you ever been to the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's in a bigger city. It should be. I mean, it still would be quite a bit of travel, but a little bit easier to get to than the last few years. And you would meet so many. Your brand is perfect. Even if you didn't get a booth, you guys could come and and meet a lot of really good people. It'd be a really good experience for you, I think.
Yeah, it'd be cool just to come and hang out and network and just speak to people that you speak to on social media.
For sure.
I nearly ended up in the States on a scholarship scheme playing lacrosse. That never, I decided to go a different route. But I don't play anymore, but I played all throughout my childhood. Enjoyed it very much.
Where in the U.S.?
Well, they didn't have a...
Somewhere on the East Coast, I'm guessing.
I was shooting for Hopkins. We had a lacrosse coach that they would come over from the US, and each club would have one. And where he was from, he said there was a spot, which was nice. We did multiple tours whilst we were in juniors. That was in Maryland.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were really good. So did a couple of tours there. It was good. Don't play it. I represented England when I was 19, and that was it. Hung my boots up then. Had a couple of injuries, picked up a few injuries at the World Games. We came fourth, which was good. Something I always wanted to do, and that was me. And then it was really focused on my career after that. Struggled not doing it absolutely every day to the full potential. And if I wasn't going to do that, I didn't want to do it.
Right. Well, dang, you must have been pretty good.
There's a lot of people I used to play with are now going on to do great things, and that's life, isn't it? I've done various different things. So, but I've got an 18-month-old, and it changes everything. Now I'm interested in what he's going to do and what I can do for him.
Mm-hmm. We could also touch. You guys said you're going to start a podcast. Do you want to say anything about that? Now would be a good time.
Yeah, well, thank you. So the name we've settled on is In Between Sets. In Between Sets with Jake. In Between Sets with John Greaves at Garage Gym Life. John, you're on my hit list if you watch this. But I want to do a fitness podcast. I want to do a podcast, in which we're speaking to people in and around fitness, but not necessarily influencers, but people in and around the business of fitness, how they've got to where they are. You touched on some really good points here about how you started it because it was a value. You saw how it has been of value to your life, and you wanted to spread the word. And then, I think COVID has had an exponential effect on the fitness space. I mean, we wouldn't be where we were, where we are without COVID. You said the garage gym scene blew up because of COVID. And I think there's a lot of really interesting stories out there which people would like to hear. So we're going to call it In Between Sets with name. I've got a few people lined up locally and internationally. And I'm really excited for it. I'm really excited for the networking opportunities. I'm really excited to hear about people's stories about how they grow their brand. I'm really excited to tell our story. I'm really excited to learn things. So yeah, it's going to be great.
Cool. I mean, well, I highly recommend it. So, I mean, it's not necessarily like it takes time to grow. And it's not necessarily like, if you're doing a niche podcast like this, it's not going to like bring in tons and tons of ad dollars, but like I wouldn't have been able to do Home Gym Con, or it wouldn't have got off to like as good of a start if I didn't have, I had like 20 podcast episodes, and the first like 12 vendor signups were from like people that I did podcasts with. It's because I sat down with them for like an hour. I learned from them, they got to know me, and, it was easier to like ask them to come do this where they didn't really know what they were signing up for when you have like a personal connection with them. So there's like a lot of other benefits that come from podcasting. And I've also just learned a ton about the industry. Like, like I couldn't just like call you guys up and ask you all of these questions. I could, but it'd be kind of strange. So, but I mean, I definitely learned from you. I've learned from others. So that's kind of the route I would take if I were you guys. You get to know others, not necessarily, and I don't want to sound the wrong way, but not necessarily consider who's listening. Just like be more focused on the actual conversation that you're having and what you're getting out of it. So yeah, I mean, I highly recommend it. It'd be a nice content for your brand as well, I think. Yeah.
Forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to stay consistent. The biggest thing is, you do conversations and you forget to schedule. So whatever you have to do to like stay on schedule is also important.
I think that will be something that is key, and I think it will force us to do that. But hopefully we'll see the benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there hasn't been one person that I've asked to be on the podcast and they've said no. Maybe some people don't respond, but like 90% of the people are like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." So yeah, I would just not be afraid to ask anyone, and most people are cool with giving up an hour of their time or so. Cool. Well, anything else, guys? Cool.
Where will you be in 2 years?
Yeah, thanks for. Where will I be? Well,
Oh, 5.
That's a good question. Like you, I'm still kind of like in the day-to-day grind, just trying to like get by day and grow from year by year. But yeah, I mean, I was in a good place as far as like content a few years ago, and then I kind of like took this transformation with like Home GymCon and plugged a ton of resources, and much of my time went into that. So I hope Home GymCon is in a couple of years is even more established than it is. So I think, more of like rather than being known as like a product reviewer, I'd like to be known as more of like the relationships guide, or like bringing the community together through like Home GymCon and trying to create another event called the Garage Gym Games, and doing more podcasts like this, getting more stories out, as opposed to like just an everyday product reviewer, which is tough because product reviews are really the only way to like make money. To be honest, like if you're gonna be in the content game in home gym, that's the best way to like survive. So trying to survive this transformation is kind of what I'm focused on right now.
We'd love. I know you've obviously been on the website. We'd love for you to review any of our products. So please do let us know if you think you'd like to try any more of them out.
Can do.
And likewise, if you have any ideas that you want to discuss, let's that you think something needs to be brought to market, an idea that you've been working on for 7 years, then please do. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, I've got nothing but like back of the napkin ideas, but yeah, good to know.
That's where the best ones start.
Can do. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I'll
thanks, Jake.
Hit the stop button. Yeah, I'll make sure to plug your links in. But again, thanks for taking the time to do this.
No worries.
Thanks, Jake.
Have a great weekend, mate.